I was talking to a doctor friend of mine over the weekend who makes good money, and we were talking about finances and investing, and what he said was, lucky for him, he doesn't have to worry about investing and this financial stuff because he has a really good financial advisor and he handles all of his money. Now, I said that was good, and he was telling me about his fees, and he was talking about how his financial advisor charges him about a 1% fee. Now, I asked him if he knows how much that fee is going to cost him, because you have a lot of people who say, well, I make good money, I have a financial advisor, they handle my money, so what's the problem? Can't I just hire somebody smart to manage my money? And yes, there is a time and a place to have a financial advisor, a financial planner, a financial coach, somebody to help guide you. But you have to understand the cost of these things as well, because you can't just throw your money at a financial advisor and expect them to take care of it without getting any sort of second opinion. How do you know if they're actually doing a good job? And how do you know if they're not giving you the best returns possible? Let me put it this way. If you invest, say, $1,000 a month, and you do this every month from the day you turn 21 until you turn 65, 66 years old at retirement time, and you can get an average 7% return on your money, well, you might see your wealth grow to just under, right around $4 million. But now, let's reassess this, assuming that you give your money to a money manager, a financial advisor, somebody who's going to actually manage it for you, and now they charge you just a small 1% fee. And you might be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just 1%. Well, a 1% fee in this situation means that you're going to lose out on over $1.1 million. You're going to have less than $3.8 million in this situation if you pay a money manager a 1% fee. Now, this is where you have to understand, is this 1% fee worth it? If they can give you a better return than if you just put your money in the market and now you can get your money back, now it might make sense. But for the vast majority of people, if you're just giving your money to a financial advisor, you're just giving your money to a money manager, but you don't understand what the fees are or what the costs are, you're just giving the money to them because you don't want to have to think about the money, well, then there's a chance that you could get much bigger returns and get much bigger wealth just because you did a little bit of extra research and you understood what was happening with your money. Even a 1% money management fee, which might not really sound like anything, can really add up. I mean, it can eat away at more than 25% of your total potential wealth, not because it's just a 1% fee, but because the 1% fee is charged on every dollar that you have invested every single year and 1% of every single dollar you see your money grow by. So every year it's taking away a piece of your principal, it's taking away a piece of your growth, and this means that your money is going to grow to a much smaller amount with just a tiny little 1% fee. And this is how so many financial advisors and money managers make so much money, because they charge these little tiny fees for a long period of time. Now again, there's a time and a place for a money manager and a financial advisor. Financial advisors can be very good. They can be very great. They can help you make a lot of money, but you have to understand the basics of financial education. That way you can make sure that you're getting the best returns on your money. It's just a matter of understanding what's going on. It's like getting a second opinion at the doctor. If you got diagnosed with cancer and somebody wants to do a very intensive treatment on you, well, it'd be very good for you to get a second opinion and make sure that you actually have the cancer and make sure that the treatment is a good one before you sacrifice your life down one line. When it comes to money and your wealth, it is music to the other entity's ears when you rely on another entity to tell you what you need or what you should get. It is music to the bank's ears when you tell the bank, I don't know how big of a home that I can afford. What are they going to say? Bigger. It is music to a corporation's ears when you don't know what you should buy. What are they going to sell you? More. It is music to every single entity's ears when you don't have that basic level of financial education for yourself that way you can take care of yourself. Now again, I'm going to emphasize this. This doesn't mean it's bad to spend money, it's bad to go out and use these entities. These entities can be great. They can be very profitable for you as well once you understand how the entities work. Once you know how to use a bank, well, now you could use a bank to help finance some of your investments. Potentially, if you're okay with taking on debt. It's not okay to go out and use debt to go out and buy a Gucci purse or a Louis Vuitton handbag. These things cost you money, and now all you're doing is making Gucci rich and you're making your banker rich. If you have investments, you have an investment portfolio, and now you want to enjoy some of the wealth you have because you want to buy some designer clothes, fine. There's nothing wrong with buying these things, having the nice things, but you got to make sure you can afford it first. But you don't want to sacrifice your future wealth to have some nice things today. What you want to do is understand that the most important thing right now is you becoming wealthy. How do you do that? Well, first, you got to get financially educated. Understand that the way you become wealthy is you spend less than what you make and you invest the difference. Once you understand that, you're going to start putting your money aside towards your investments. Then, this is where you have to understand, how do you actually invest your money? Where do you invest your money? What is the best avenue for you? Is it in stocks? Is it in real estate? Is it in businesses? Is it in something else? Everybody has a different interest. And this is where you have to find what your interest is, where the best opportunity is, and how involved you want to be, and how risky you want to be. Because all these things are going to lead down a different investment. Some of you might become real estate investors. Some of you might become stock market investors. Some of you might be investing in cryptocurrency. Some of you might be investing in startups. Some of you might be running your own business. Some of you might be investing in some alternative investments. And this is where you got to figure out, what is the best investment for you? Like, I don't invest in cars. I think cars are a depreciating liability. They just lose money, which is why I still drive a beat down car myself, because I'm investing in my business. But I have a good friend of mine who lives out in DC, where all he does is he buys and sells cars, because that's what he understands, and he makes a great living doing that. He flips cars, he fixes cars, he has his own car shop. He makes a lot of money doing this, and he supports his whole family doing it, because that's what he understands. And this is where you have to understand, what is the right investment for you. For the average person, a car is not a good investment. For the average person, going out and starting a business is probably not the right thing to do. But you got to figure out, where do you want to be? This is why it's so important for you to be financially educated, because if you're not financially educated, you're going to be poor at the expense of making everybody else rich. Now, this is where you have to get financially educated, but unfortunately, you're going to have to go out of your way to learn this. We don't learn this stuff in school. You have to go out and start reading books, watch YouTube videos, take classes, get coaching, whatever you got to do. That way you can make better decisions for yourself financially and understand how you can use your money as a tool instead of like a fool like everybody else. If you're just getting started, there's a few things I want you to do. First, we have a free ebook that walks you through how to start investing, how you can start generating passive income. It's the guide that walks you through the basics of how to get started with money management and investing. So if you want to read that free guide, I'll link my guide to passive income and investing that you can download for free down in the description below. Number two, the next thing that I want you to work on, and the first thing financially that I want you to work on, is your spending. The first thing and the simplest thing, not the easiest thing, but the most accessible thing for you to work on is to spend less money, because if you spend less money, you will immediately have more money in your bank account. Because if you make $1,000 and spend $1,000, you're going to have no money. But if you make $1,000 and spend $800, well, now you have $200 in your bank account. And the most accessible way to start having more money is just by spending less money. So I want you to start working on that. See where you can cut back. See where you can sell off some of the things that you don't have. See where you can stop spending money. See where you can find ways to have extra money. I really like this one thing that Dave Ramsey has been saying recently about eating out at restaurants, because he calls eating out not food, but entertainment. Eating at a restaurant is entertainment. It is not a form of actual food. And I agree with that, because when I was getting started on my financial education journey, this was after I started learning about money, after I had realized I had blown so much money on dumb things like my car and watches and just things that didn't provide any real value, financial value to my life, things that made me look rich but didn't really provide me anything of substantial real wealth. Once I learned that, I stopped spending money. Now I remember we used to go out to eat with all my friends. We used to go to restaurants and I never ate. I used to only drink the water and then come home and eat at home, or eat before I go there, because I didn't want to spend the money, and I also didn't want the extra calories. So I stopped eating at restaurants. It was probably like 1 to 2 years where I didn't eat at a restaurant ever. I would go to the restaurants with my friends, but I never spent money there because I knew that I could save a lot of money just by eating at home. The next thing I want you to do is focus on earning more, because there's no fun in living like you're broke for the rest of your life. There's no fun in never eating at a restaurant. There's no fun in never enjoying the money that you earn. I want you to actually enjoy the money, but I want you to be able to afford it and understand that there's a different place in life for everything that you want to do. Second, I want you to start earning more money. Now, this can be a lot of different ways. If you can't find that opportunity at your job, at your career, now look for a different career. Look to get a certificate, look to get a promotion, look to go to a different company, somewhere where you can start earning more money. If you cannot do it there, or you don't want to do it there, then you start looking to earn more money outside of a job. Maybe become a freelancer. Look at sites like Upwork or Fiverr or freelancer.com. These are all places where now you can offer your services to other businesses that can hire you for some freelancer work where you can work a couple hours a day or a couple hours a week. It all just depends on how much you want to work. Or go even deeper, look into creating a side hustle. Do you have an idea of something that you want to create, something that you want to sell? Do you have a business idea, something that you want to create, something that you want to sell? Start investing some of your time and money potentially into this thing, but don't just start throwing money into it. Start by doing it, and don't spend any money until you have to. One of the mottos that I have is I don't want to spend any money unless we start making money. And so you got to start thinking a little bit differently, where you don't just start throwing money at problems until you start generating some revenue. And that might mean that you have to start before you're ready. You might have to start before things are polished. You might have to start before things look good. And you can worry about looking good after you make your first $1 million. But right now, you just got to worry about making your first dollar, making your first sale, start earning some extra money. And that might mean not having a fully functional website, having all the bells and whistles. Worry about that later. The third thing that I want you to work on, so you spend less, you earn more, then is invest your money. Now, this is where you have to be educated, learn about the different places you can invest. Your business, stocks, real estate, other startup business ideas. Learn about financial education, learn about investing, and start putting your money to work. Once you start doing this, you're going to see a completely different shift in your money. You might not have a whole bunch of extra cash in your bank account, but you're not going to feel the brokenness that you did before, because you know that you have your money going into assets. You own stocks, you own real estate, you own these investments which are working to make you more money. Yeah, maybe it's not going to make you rich in 6 months or even 2 years, but you know that you're slowly working towards this path. And now this is when you can start changing the way that you live your life. Once you start having investments, once you start earning more money, once you know how to live below your means, now you can reassess your finances and say, oh, yeah, I can start buying more nice things. I can afford to live like this. I can afford this new car. I can afford this new home, because now you've started putting that money to work. You have savings, you have investments, and you have a plan with your money. That way you can actually become wealthy. There are 3 things that separate someone who is successful from somebody who is not successful. These are the same 3 things that separate somebody who is going to become extremely financially wealthy from somebody who is not going to become financially wealthy. These are the same 3 things that separate somebody who is rich from who is poor. Now, when I say rich and poor, I mean strictly financially. And these 3 things don't have anything to do with where you come from, what you look like, what skin color you have, what degree you have, what job you have, or what even income you have. Now, you might be hearing me saying, Jaspreet, what in the world are you talking about? My income is going to determine whether or not I become successful financially. And that's not the case, especially if you look at people who actually become wealthy. Your income does play a part, but it's not the sole factor. And if you understand the 3 things that I talk about, you'll understand how to use your income that right way, or even grow your income that right way. That way you can actually become wealthy. And this is coming from somebody who comes from an immigrant family. My parents came to this country with very little. My dad came to this country with less than $100, didn't speak the language, didn't know the people, didn't know the culture, and had to find a way to make it work. So growing up, I didn't have any sort of formal entrepreneurship education. I was discouraged from being an entrepreneur. I was discouraged from going out and getting financial education. I was told not to do this dumb thing called investing. I was told to go to school, study hard, get good grades, and become a doctor. When in reality, if we're speaking just financially, when you talk about just the numbers, going to school to get good grades, that way you can spend all of your time working hard at a job, whether it's a doctor or whether it's at McDonald's, is one of the worst ways to take care of yourself financially, and you'll see why. There are 3 things that you need to focus on if you want to become financially, that's the key word here, is if you want to become financially successful. The first thing you have to master is your mindset, because many of us have a limited, scarcity, broke, poor mindset, where for one, we live in this world where we think there is a limitation as to how much we can earn, or how much we can accumulate, or how much money we can get. When in reality, there is a lot of money in the world. I'm sure we all know somebody like this. I'm sure you know somebody like this. When somebody else gets money, when somebody else becomes successful, you get jealous, you get angry, you get envious. Why did this person do it? They must have done something bad. They must have done something sketchy. They must have done something evil, or that money is bad. Don't worry about money, because we can't figure out how they did it. And this is one of those things where now you have to flip the script. And instead of hating the success, start learning how the success works. And the interesting thing is, many times we have this deep rooted in our mind where when we see somebody else become successful, we start to come up with excuses, or reasons as to how they came up with it, because most of us don't grow up with very rich parents who can instill this growth, success, abundance mindset. So we grow up with this idea of thinking that if somebody else does it, they must have done something bad, when in reality that same mindset is what's holding so many people back from achieving anything, because we start hating success instead of asking how somebody did it. When you start hating the success, it's going to be very difficult for you to go out and actually achieve anything yourself, because you keep hating when somebody else does it. So you have to start appreciating and start asking the question why, because as soon as you start asking the question why, you start asking the question how did they do it? Why did they achieve it? How did they do it? And this is where now you can start to dig deeper and start to learn and start to appreciate and start to celebrate wins, because you'll start to realize there's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of money out there. And just because somebody else made $1, somebody else made $1 million, somebody else made 100 million, somebody else made $1 billion, it's not going to stop you from achieving all the success that you want, because our system with our central banks, with our government, is printing tons and tons and tons of dollars, and they're injecting it into our economy. So your goal should not be to hate on what other people do, but rather figure out how you can attract just a little piece of this huge pie of dollars to your pocket. And now how do you do that? Well, now going back to the mindset, it's developing that growth mindset. Because when somebody told me this, or I heard something related to this a number of years ago, and I thought it was impossible, but somebody was talking about, now if you have a pie, because they were talking about how you can live below your means and how to use your money the right way. And if you earn $50,000 a year, there's two things that you can do if you want to put money aside to build wealth. One thing that you can do is you can try to squeeze more pennies out of your pie. So if you make $50,000 a year and you put aside $10,000 a year for your savings and your investments. Now you might say, I really like this idea of saving and investing. I like the wealth that I'm building from my investments, because I think we all know now, if you've been subscribed to my channel, that the way that you become successful financially is by investing your money. So now you're making 50 grand, you're putting aside 10 grand, and you're like, I love this idea of investing. Let me get more aggressive. Let me put more money aside to investing. So what do? Well, what that looks like financially is that now you're making $50,000 a year, and now instead of putting aside $10,000, you're going to work to put aside $20,000. Now you've doubled the amount of money you're putting aside for your investments, you double the money you put aside for your savings, but now you have to live smaller. Now this is great to do in the short term, but you keep limiting your lifestyle. You're trying to squeeze more pennies out of a limited pie, where now it's about the abundance mindset. Where now, how do you ask yourself, how do you go from this $50,000 a year pie to $500,000 a year? Now, if you do the same thing, instead of putting aside the $10,000 a year for your savings and your investments, now you can put aside $100,000 a year for your savings and your investments. You're living off of the same percentage. You're putting aside 20% of your income in both instances. But in the second, when you put aside $100,000 a year, $100,000 a year is a whole lot more than $10,000 a year, even though you're still living off of 80% of your income. But now you have $400,000 a year to live off of. Well, you can put aside 20%, which is now 100 grand for your investments and your savings. Now, when you hear that, you're going to say, Jaspreet, how in the world am I going to go from 50 grand to $500,000 a year? And you're right. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take time, but it is possible if you have the right mindset. So what does that mean? The first thing is, you got to believe that you can do it. Because if you say it's impossible for somebody like me, it's impossible for somebody from my background, it's impossible for somebody with my degree, it's impossible for somebody with my college education, it's impossible for somebody with my lack of education to go and do this, then I guarantee it's going to be impossible for you. But if you think it's possible, if you believe it's possible, then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start reading books. Then maybe you buy a class. Then maybe you go out and try something. And you're going to do this and you're going to fail. And then you're going to feel defeated. And then you're going to watch more YouTube videos. And then you're going to do it again and again and again. And eventually you're going to start seeing a growth in your income. And you're going to start seeing a growth in how you're earning your money. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your degree is. It doesn't matter what your background is. But you'll start doing something different if that's what you want. But it all starts with that mindset. And that means you have to believe it's possible for you. And that means that you have to start thinking a little bit different. It means you have to start thinking a little bit bigger. Because if you keep thinking small, you're going to keep putting limitations on yourself. There are enough cynics and enough haters on the internet and in the world. They don't do any good. They're going to keep hating. They're going to keep talking about how it's not possible. They're going to keep talking about all the excuses and all the complaints about how it's so hard for them. But if you keep doing what everybody else does, because the majority of people are going to fall into the cynic and hater mindset, if you keep doing what they do, you're going to end up like them, which is hating, being cynical, and being broke. But it requires you to think a little bit different and start seeing what's possible. That way you can start making different decisions. And if you keep hating the success, it is going to be impossible for you to achieve that success yourself, where you have to now change that mindset. There was a saying that I heard which said, when you don't know your own limitations, nothing's going to stop you from going out and actually achieving them. Because when you think it's impossible for you, you create these limitations for yourself, saying that somebody like me can't do it, somebody from my background can't do it. When you put these limitations out there, it is going to be impossible for you to go out and actually do something, because you've already created a limitation for yourself. So you have to stop giving yourself these limitations and start thinking a little bit bigger. Even when I started this YouTube channel, I know I did the same thing. Now, I have been notorious since I was young to think big. And I was always told, stop thinking like that. You're thinking too big. Stop dreaming so much. But even with that mindset, somebody who always thought big, I put these own limitations on myself when I started my YouTube channel. I remember joking around with my friends that if my YouTube channel ever hit 100,000 subscribers, that I made it. That it's everything that I could imagine for a financial channel. If my channel ever hit 1 million subscribers, that I would just shut down my channel, because that's impossible, that it would never happen. Now here we are today with the Minority Mindset YouTube channel having even more than 1 million subscribers. And this is coming from somebody who created this whole idea of thinking big. I talk about this idea of thinking big. I've always thought big, yet here I was creating limitations on myself. And so if you put limitations on yourself, you're going to stop yourself from thinking bigger. And if you stop yourself from thinking bigger, you're going to stop working for something bigger. And this is where that mindset is so important. That's why I call everything that I do myself the minority mindset, because all success starts with your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, I can guarantee you it is going to be impossible for you to succeed, which brings me to number 2. But before I go into number 2, if you do want to learn more about how you put your money to work, like I said earlier, that your investments are how you become wealthy. If you want to know how you actually put your money to work to invest your money to build wealth, my team and I have put together a free guide on how you can generate passive income. That way now you know how to invest your money, even if you don't have a ton of money to start. So if you want to read my free guide on how to generate passive income, I'll put the link to how you can download this free guide down in the description below. The second thing that separates financially successful people from people who are not financially successful is discipline. And discipline comes in many different fashions. Discipline means that now when you earn money, you're disciplined enough to not spend all your money, to put money aside for your savings and your investments, no matter how much money you earn, no matter what time of year it is, that anytime you get paid, you're always going to be living smaller. That way you have money to invest. That way you have money to build your wealth. That also means now that you're working for the long term. Because what happens to so many people who don't have that financial discipline is you're going to fall for the get-rich-quick schemes. Maybe you see some big returns in the short term, but over the long term, they have been proven time and time again to lose you money. So you have the discipline to understand that you are investing for the long term, not to just throw your money into these hopey, hypey, scammy little things that you hope will make you some money in the short term, when in reality they end up eating away at your profits, not just now, but over the long term as well, because now you have less money to actually invest for the long term. That also means discipline now to keep putting in the reps, to keep putting in the work when you're trying to work for something at the light at the end of the tunnel. You're trying to put in the work to build something that's bigger than you, that's trying to build something that takes time to build, because most people want that instant gratification. We live in this world where it's the microwave culture. We want the results quick. We want the things now. We want what we want today. We don't want to wait until we can actually afford it, right? It's the same reason why credit cards are so popular for people who can't afford things, because now you can use your credit card as a free money printer to buy all the nice stuff that you want. You can use buy now, pay later to buy things today and worry about the price later. We want the nice stuff now instead of actually earning it, instead of actually affording it. But this lack of discipline is what keeps so many people's bank accounts empty and broke and even negative, because now you don't have the discipline to keep your money in your account or to put your money to work, because now when you don't have the discipline, it's hard for you to put any money aside, because now you're spending every dollar that you earn because you want nice things. And not even just that, you're going to go out and finance the stuff that you want today, because you're going to say, I work so hard. I deserve the vacation that I can't afford. I deserve the Louis Vuitton bag that I need to put on my credit card. I deserve the Gucci product that I don't have the cash for. And so now what are you doing? Well, you're living off of your feelings instead of discipline. And then when you don't have the discipline, instead of investing your money for the long term into assets that can actually produce you wealth, you're throwing your money around into things that are scammy, hypey, gimmicky, and they actually eat your money. So now not only do you not have money to put aside to build long-term wealth, but now that money is gone into something that you thought and hoped would make you successful. Now you start hating the system, you start hating the game, and you start resenting everything because you can't see the success, and then you don't have the discipline to keep putting in the reps, to build something bigger than you, to work for a bigger goal of wealth, where now you're actually putting the money aside and you don't need to actually touch that money until you hit something bigger than what you have now. Because as soon as you start investing your money, you might get tempted. Oh, I have this growing investment account. Maybe I should put some cash out now and buy a nice car. Maybe I should pull some cash out right now and go on a nice vacation. When you pull that money out, not only are you decreasing the size of the principal, the size of your investment today, but now that money doesn't have time to grow. Every dollar you spend today is potential $10 in the future in your wealth when you put that money to work. Now, this is where you have to find the right balance for yourself and know what is a reasonable amount of money for you to spend and what's a reasonable amount of money for you to invest, and being able to live within those means. Because if you say that you're going to live off of 75 cents of every dollar that you earn, and you're going to put aside the other 25 cents for your savings and your investments, well, now you have to have the discipline to stay tuned with that. Now, hey, that doesn't mean that you should sacrifice every nice thing in your life. I'm not saying never go out to eat, never go on a vacation, never have nice stuff. I want you to have all the nice stuff, but I want you to be able to afford it first. And that means you have to have the discipline to know what you can afford and what you can't afford. And a simple rule of thumb to know what you can afford and what you can't afford is to follow my rule of 5 for non-necessary liabilities. That means if you can't buy 5 of them, you can't afford 1 of them. It's a simple way to know if you can actually afford something or not, but this is where you have to have the discipline to actually stick through with what you want. And then the last part of this discipline really has to do with someone's work ethic, because there's this whole movement of people who really just don't want to work. I mean, it started with, this whole idea of this laptop lifestyle where you can just work for 2 hours a day on the beach and never really have to work. And then you have this movement of people saying, I don't like the idea of hustling. I don't like the hustle culture. It's bad. And you should work smart, not work hard. Look, at the end of the day, the harder you work, the better your results are going to be. Now, there is a difference between working hard just to work hard and working hard for something smart. I'd rather you use your hard work to do something smart. Use your hard work in a way that's going to get you the best results. But I don't know any successful person who is actually wealthy who doesn't work their butt off. I don't know any very wealthy person who does not work a lot. And I can tell you that if you really want to become successful, you're going to have to be willing to put in the work. Now again, the hard work has to be done the right way. Like, you can't just work hard to work hard. I mean, if that was the case, then laborers and construction workers would be the highest paid industry in the country, but they're not. Yes, it's hard work, but this is where now you want to make sure your hard work is getting the biggest benefit and the most bang by actually using your hard work in a way that's going to build you something sustainable, that's going to build you something scalable, that's going to build you something that's bigger than you. Now, after you build something, that's when you can pull back. It's going to take time, but after you build something, then hey, yeah, by all means, start pulling back. Don't work as much and start living more of your life because you had put in that effort, but it takes time and that effort to get there. Every wealthy person has to go through a period of hard work where they grind and where they bust their butt in a way that's going to get them the most return, but you have to be willing to work hard. If you're not willing to work hard, it's going to be extremely difficult and extremely time consuming for you to actually become wealthy, because now you're going to spend the whole rest of your life trying to just do little incremental steps without working hard to actually build this financial freedom. But if you can put in the hard work today, you put in the sacrifice today, you can reap the rewards for this work that you put in for years and decades into the future. And the third thing that separates somebody who becomes incredibly financially successful from somebody who does not is your risk tolerance. I am not the smartest person in the world. I'm not even close to being the smartest person. I know people that are way smarter than I am, that did way better in school than I did. But the difference between me and them, there's many differences, but one main difference between me and them is I am willing to take on more risks than they do. I have friends who are doctors that are earning huge salaries, that have big savings accounts, but are very far from actually become wealthy because they are not willing to take on any risks. Now, life and financial success is about risk management, because the way that it works in business, the way that it works in investing, is there are opportunities out there where you can take a risk and see 100 times rewards, where you can take a risk and see significant upside with very little downside. Those are the types of risks that you want to be taking, where you have huge upside, little downside. But so many people end up taking the big downside and little bit upside risk because it's what's most attractive right now, it's what's most accessible right now. And if you're not willing to take on any risk, well, it's going to be very difficult for you to see any growth with your money, with your wealth, with your cash that you have. And it's a matter of risk, because some people are willing to take on the risk and they're willing to do whatever it takes and they're willing to risk everything to achieve success, and other people are just not. And if you're not willing to take on any risk, well, that's a risk in and of itself. Because if you have, let's just say $100,000 sitting in your bank account and you're not willing to take on any risk, so you just save your money. Now, you think that you're doing the safest option by saving your money, because if you put this money in the market, maybe you lose 50%. That's risky. You don't want to lose half of your investments that you worked so hard to put aside. But the alternative is also risky, where if you save your money in the bank, your savings are also losing value to inflation. So your safe investment is also risky because it's also losing. It's actually a guaranteed loss, because the interest rate that you're getting in the bank is going to be less than what inflation is. So you're guaranteed to lose by saving your money in the bank. But if you invest your money, there's no limit to how much money you can earn. You could turn that 100 grand into 125 grand, to 150 grand, to 100 grand, maybe even $1 million, depending on what type of investments you make and how long your time horizon is. Sure, you can lose money, but you have a whole lot of upside. But when you keep your money in the bank, you're not going to see much growth. And in fact, you're going to lose buying power each and every day. So there's risk to taking a risk, but there's also risk to not taking risk. And I'd rather take that risk of taking a risk and failing than not taking a risk and then regretting it later. So this is where you have to understand that risk is very important, to be able to take risk. And this is what wealthy people do, is they know how to take calculated risks in ways where now you have the most upside with the least downside. And one of the easiest ways to mitigate your downside, to make the risk less risky, is to learn. Get financially educated, to go out and actually have experience, because the more experience you have, the more easy it's going to be for you to find good deals versus bad deals. And the downfall is that's going to take time. It's going to take real life experience. And this real life experience can be expensive. That means you're going to have to make mistakes, you're going to have to make expensive mistakes, and you're going to have to fail, but that's how you learn. You learn by doing, learn by failing, because that's the real life tuition. I made a video on this YouTube channel where I walked you through my worst real estate deal ever. It's the only deal to date that I've ever lost money on in real estate, and it was extremely painful, it was extremely stressful, and it was extremely expensive. And I walked you through all the mistakes that I made and all the lessons that I learned. But that single deal where I made so many mistakes set me up for so many bigger deals later on, because then I learned how to manage risk much better, and I learned how to analyze properties way better, and I learned what to look for way better. It was very stressful and painful and expensive when it happened, but it was one of those things where it was a crash course on how to invest your money in real estate, and the money that I lost and the stress that I went through was my real life tuition to learn how to do it the right way. If you are struggling with money right now, then there are 3 things that you want to work on in this order. That way you can break out of the financial predicament that you're in, and then break out of the financial rat race that so many people are stuck in, where you're just working to pay your bills and pay off your debts, and then you work to get a raise, then you have more bills, and you have more debts, and then you work for another raise, and you have more bills and more debts. If you want to break out of this system, there are 3 things that you have to work on, and you want to make sure you work on them in this order, because a lot of times we get it confused and we think that if I'm struggling with my money, the first thing that I got to work on is just earning more money. But in reality, that is not the best thing to do. It can be helpful if you know what to do with your money, but what happens is, for most of us, we don't know what to do with our money, so you earn more money and then magically your expenses rise too. So you work really hard. That way you can get a raise or a promotion or a bonus, and then you make some more money, and then you got to show off this new money that you just got. You got to show it off with a new car, a new vacation, or a new handbag. You got to buy something nice. And now all of a sudden you made some more money, but you have no wealth to show for it. You have some nice stuff to show for it, but that nice stuff doesn't make you wealthy. That nice stuff makes somebody else rich, but it keeps you broke. So if you really, you actually want to break out of the financial system that you're in right now, if you really want to stop struggling with money, then the first thing you have to do is you have to work on your spending. Now you might say, but Jaspreet, I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. I'm already struggling to make ends meet. What are you talking about? How am I supposed to work on my spending? Well, this is exactly why you got to work on your spending. You have to spend less than what you make, no matter how much money you're making right now. And you're going to have to find a way to do that. And if you say, Jaspreet, that's impossible. I'm already spending every dollar that I bring in. Well, think of it this way. If the government tomorrow passed a new law that said that they are going to impose a brand new 25% tax on your income, what are you going to do? You're going to cry, you're going to complain, you're going to be upset, and then you're going to figure out a way to pay it. You're going to find a way to live off of 75% of what you make right now, and this is what you need to think of right now. Imagine that you are taxing yourself 25%, but this tax that you're putting on yourself is not to make the government rich, it's to make yourself rich. And this is the first thing that you have to do if you want to become successful, no matter how much money you're making. Because what happens to so many people, and this is the same whether you're making $20,000 a year, $200,000 a year, or $2 million a year, so many people live paycheck to paycheck. There was a statistic that I read in the last couple of weeks that said that something around 6 out of 10 Americans have less than $1,000 saved up for an emergency. Now that's pretty bad. But if you even look at bigger numbers, it doesn't change that much. I looked at people that are making over 6 figures a year, over $100,000 a year. And what it said was that out of those people making over 100 grand a year, about half of them are also living paycheck to paycheck. So what does that tell us? It's not just the income that you're making that matters, it's what you're doing with the income, which is why the very first thing that you have to work on if you want to break out of a financial mess is you have to work on your spending. That way you know how to use the money that you make. And once you know how to use the money that you make, this is now where you've built a system and now you just got to make more money. That's the easy part. That's also the fun part. But we're going to get to that in just a second. We live in this consumerism culture where it is very normal to spend all the money that we make. And it's this thing that I call net zero thinking, where if we have $1,000 in the bank, we need to spend $1,000. But this is where you want to start thinking completely different. Like the first time I made 6 figures in a year, the first time I made $100,000 in a year, I was in school. I was in law school. And at the time, when I was making $100,000 a year, I was making more money than pretty much every single one of my classmates, unless somebody was making more money that I didn't know about, but that's possible. But I was making more than pretty much everybody there. But I also lived in the worst apartment out of everyone that I knew. I lived in a rundown apartment where I was paying less than $400 a month. And that $400 fee that I was paying included my utilities. Included my heat, my gas, my cable, and my internet. And the reason why I was able to get it so cheap was because I didn't have a room. I slept on the living room floor. I had a mattress that I kept in the hallway, and I had sheets that I kept in the living room. So every night that I slept there, I took the mattress out, put it down in the living room, then I unfolded the sheets, I laid down the sheets, I went to sleep, then I'd wake up, fold the sheets, put them back down on the couch, pick up the mattress and put it back in the hallway. It was an easy way for me to spend less money because what I wanted to do was invest every penny that I could back into me, back into my investments, back into my business, because I knew this was my opportunity to grow. Even when I first started making $1 million in a year, I was driving a car that was worth about $500. I still drive this $500 car right now. Now, right now, today, when I'm recording this video, I'm in Manhattan, but my car is at my home in Michigan. And a few weeks before I came out to Manhattan, it's kind of funny, I was driving home from my office, and my car doesn't have a bumper on it. And I got pulled over by the police. It's the first time that I got pulled over because I didn't have a bumper on it. I still have a license plate. It was on my back window, but I guess the cop didn't see it. And he pulls me over, and he looks at my car, and he comes up to me, and he says, sir, you don't have a bumper on your car. I said, I know, I'm sorry, it fell off. And then he started to feel bad, and he said, look, I know life has been hard, but you really got to get your life in order. You need to get yourself a new car. You need to get yourself a better car that has better tires on it, because I have different rims on my car. And you need to get yourself a car that's in better condition, that doesn't look so ugly. And I looked at him and I said, I know, officer, I really need to get my stuff in order. Little does he know that I am doing just fine financially. But the reason why is we assume that you need to have all this nice stuff right now to look like you made it. What am I focused on? I'm focused on investing in my own businesses. If I go out and buy a $150,000 car, I can do that just fine. I could go buy a $150,000 car in cash and it would not affect me. But I'd rather take the $150,000 and reinvest it back into my market briefs company. I would rather use that money to hire more employees. I'd rather use that money to invest in our software, in our infrastructure, because right now, Market Briefs is one of the fastest growing financial newsletters on the internet. So I want to invest in my company because I'd rather have a bigger company than a nice car. I'm also building a new tax firm that I'm trying to build, and I'd rather have this cash ready to invest there. And so it's, what is your biggest priority now? Do you want to have the Beamer? Do you want to have the nice stuff? Do you want to have the nice Rolex? Do you want to have the name brand, cool looking things that make you look like you're rich? Or do you want to own the things that actually make you rich? And for me, I want to actually build the things because when I enjoy it more, I see the purpose and I see a much bigger upside with these things than a nice car. Now, does this mean I'm never going to have a nice car or that I'm never going to have nice stuff? No. I do plan on buying myself a nice car. I do plan on owning nice stuff. But for me, I'd rather invest my money into my own business right now because I see the biggest upside, I see the most opportunity, and my biggest purpose associated with that business and the stuff that I'm working on right now. So I'd rather invest my time, my effort, and my money into those things right now because I see the biggest upside, and I know that's what I want to see succeed right now. Once you figure out how to control and manage your savings, the next thing that you want to work on is your earning, because the last thing that you want to do is live like you're in poverty for the rest of your life. I mean, you want to live below your means, but you don't want to live small the rest of your life. Sure, yeah, I don't have the nicest car right now, but I do have the nice things that I want because a car is not very important to me. There are other things that are important to me. I like traveling in style. I like traveling comfortably. So I will invest way more money in traveling in a better business class ticket, especially if I'm flying overseas, not if I'm domestic. But if I'm flying a long flight overseas, I will pay extra. Even though it'll cost me 5 times more for that business class ticket. I will pay extra for a nicer Airbnb. I will pay money for the things that matter to me, but this requires you now to be able to earn more money. And this is where now it's understanding the difference of trying to squeeze more pennies out of a limited pie versus trying to grow your pie. If you make $40,000 a year right now and you're putting aside $10,000 a year, you can squeeze more pennies out of your pie, or you can work to grow your pie from 40 grand to $400,000. And it's going to require that mindset of first believing it's possible and then putting in the action to figure out how. Now, when it comes to you actually earning money, there's 2 kinds of paths that you can follow. One is through a job and one is through your own income. And this is where you're going to have to be honest with yourself, because not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is meant to be a business owner. Not everybody is meant to operate a business. If you don't have the discipline or the need or the want or the interest to go out and start a business, then don't do that. Focus on your job. See how you can earn more money at your job. Talk to your boss, be open about it, and see how you can provide more value, because the income that you're going to get is a byproduct of the value that you can provide. If you can provide more value to your company, you will be able to earn more money. So that means talk to your boss, see how you can provide more value, and see if there's opportunities for you to earn more money, for you to get a raise, and see how you can do that to provide the extra value that we can earn more dollars. Now, if you don't have that opportunity at your job, then maybe you look for a new career. Maybe you look for a new certificate. Maybe you work to get a new degree. Maybe you work for something else, new experiences, that way you can get a job that's going to give you more earning potential. If you don't see that there, then maybe you go and become a salesperson. If you don't like the idea of becoming a salesperson, then maybe you need to go out and take a second job. And yeah, it is more work, but this is where you have to understand that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of options out there, but you got to figure out what's the right thing for you. Is it within your career? Is it in a new career? Is it doing something as a commission salesperson? Or is it doing multiple things at once? How can you earn more money? That way now you can just fuel the system that you have, because now you know how to live below your means. Now the only thing you need to do is earn more money so you have more cash to put to work to actually make you successful. I'll talk about what to do with that money in step number 3. But the thing that you need to work on right now is actually putting more money into your system. You figured out how to live below your means. You know how to spend your money. Now you're trying to figure out how do you earn more money, how do you maximize your income. Now, if you say, I don't like the idea of working for somebody else, I hate the idea of working a 9 to 5, I hate the idea of having a job, I want to be my own boss, then fine. Start your own side hustle, start your own business. Just understand that it comes with its own risk, and it's very hard, and it's going to be very time consuming. It's very difficult to see sometimes people talk about how you can work 2 hours a day with this laptop lifestyle and earn 6 figures a year using this 5-step system. I'm going to be honest with you. That's all crap. It doesn't work that way. I have built multiple businesses way past 6 figures a year, and I can tell you that it takes a lot of work to get a business to really anything, to start earning money, to start earning consistent money. It is very difficult. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of learning. And if you're not willing to put in that work, it is going to be very painful, because now you're going to invest your money into this get-rich-quick scam, and then you're going to be very disappointed when you find out that it doesn't do you any good. So this is where you want to actually understand, do you have the discipline and the work ethic to actually build something? If no, then don't waste your time trying to do it. Sure, try it to see if it's right for you, but if you realize that you can't do it, that you can't keep up with it, that you're not passionate about it, then focus on your job, see how you can earn the most money from your job, because now that you have your income from your job, it's how do you maximize your income, how do you put your money to work. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, great. I'm all for entrepreneurship. I love working with entrepreneurs. I love investing in entrepreneurs. I am an entrepreneur, so I am 100% supportive of entrepreneurs, but I want entrepreneurs who actually want to be entrepreneurs, who want to actually provide value, who want to actually produce something that matters, who actually want to make a difference in the world, not just people who are trying to chase a quick buck, because the entrepreneurs that are trying to chase a quick buck end up producing the crappiest companies and end up leaving and end up being very disappointed when they realize how hard entrepreneurship is. Once you know how to spend your money and once you know how to earn your money, this is where you got to master and understand number 3, which is now how do you actually put your money to work? How do you invest your money? And this is where you want to be investing into a few different things. You want to invest into your mind, your body, and your wealth. And let me start by talking about your wealth, because we're talking about how do you actually become financially successful. One of the easiest and most profitable ways to invest your money is by investing in your own mind. That way you can become wealthier. And I'll show you how you can get an MBA level education without the MBA price tag. What I want you to do right now, if you want to really become successful and you want to know how to invest in yourself, you want to know how to build your wealth, is you want to invest in your mind. Now, the way you can do that, very simple way, is I want you to go out and buy 20 books and read all 20 of these books. I want you to go out and buy 4 personal finance books. I want you to go out and buy 4 of the top stock market investing books. I want you to go out and buy 4 of the top real estate investing books. I want you to go out and buy 4 of the top business books. And I want you to go out and buy 4 of the top personal development books. If you go and buy these 5 categories of books, I want you to find any 4 of the top books. They got to be top sellers. They have a ton of reviews, a ton of comments, a ton of 5-star ratings. If you find the top 4 books in these 5 categories, personal finance, which is basic money management, stock market investing, real estate investing, building a business, even if you're not interested in being an entrepreneur, just understand how the process works in self-development. If you go out and buy these 20 books and you go and read them over the course of the next year, you are going to invest a ton of energy and time into your mind, and you're going to know so much more about how you can go out and become successful. This is one of the simplest and most accessible and one of the cheapest ways for you to invest in yourself, and I can guarantee you're going to get the best return on your time and money by going out and doing this, because the time and money that you invest in your mind here is going to pay off significant dividends, significant royalties, because now you're going to have the knowledge to know how do you actually invest your money into the different places, how do you earn more money, and how do you build the right mindset to keep building upon yourself, to keep building upon your wealth, and to keep building upon your happiness. That way you can live a very fulfilled life. If you want a direct resource on how do you actually put your money to work, you can read our free ebook on how to invest your money for passive income. It's a guide that me and my team wrote, which goes through how do you actually invest your money, how can you start generating passive income, even if you don't have a ton of money to invest. It's a completely free guide that you can start reading. And if you want to read this free guide, I'll put the link to how you can download it down in the description below. But beyond just your financial health, this is where it also pays off to invest in your mental health and your physical health, because as you start to become more financially savvy, as you start to become more wealthy, this is where you're going to want to start to make sure that you're fulfilled and happy in your life, because many times we assume, depending on where you are in your life, that just more money is going to solve every problem in your life. And more money will solve some problems in your life. It will solve the financial problems in your life. If you're struggling with your debts, if you're struggling with your bills, if you're struggling with buying nice things, if you're struggling with having nice things, more money will solve those problems. But as you start to achieve more money, that's when you're going to start to realize that more money isn't going to solve every problem in your life, and it's not going to make you fully happy. It's not going to make you fully fulfilled. And this is where you want to live a holistic, happy, fulfilled life. And this is going to require education and your time and your effort and your investments into these things as well. It means invest your money into your physical health to make sure your body is okay, to make sure your body is healthy, because this is the only body that we get. So you want to make sure it's healthy and taken care of. That way, when you have this wealth, that you can enjoy it for a long, long time. And then you want to make sure that your mental health is good too, because this is one of the things where sometimes we get very caught up in the hustle, in the game of trying to attract money, trying to make money, and then we lose sight of what makes us happy, of what we want, what makes us feel fulfilled. And at the end of the day, having a ton of money doesn't really do much if you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled. And this is where it pays for you to invest some of your time, effort, and money into these things. Now, of course, there's a time and place for everything. Sometimes working on your physical health is more important than your mental health. Sometimes your mental health is more important than your physical health. Sometimes your spiritual health is more important than your financial health, and sometimes your financial health is going to trump everything else. And so you got to understand where in your life that you are and what is most important right now, but just making sure that, hey, if you want to live a very happy, fulfilled, and successful life, you got to be fulfilled in all those aspects. You want to be physically healthy, mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, and financially healthy, because that's going to allow you to live the most fulfilled and successful life, because now more money is going to allow you to do more of the things that make you feel fulfilled. So if you are struggling with money right now, if you are struggling financially, the first thing you got to understand is that it is possible to break out of it, but the first thing that you have to work on is your spending. You got to work on how you're using the money that you currently have. It does not matter how much money you're making. You have to find a way to live off of less than what you're making currently. Once you know how to spend less than what you make, the next thing you want to do is you want to start earning more money. Whether it's from your job, whether it's from a side hustle, whether it's from starting your own business, you need to start adding more income into your lifestyle, but you don't want to just start magically inflating your expenses to match your new income. You want to earn more money, but keep your expenses low. That way you have more money to put to work. Where do you put this money to work? This is where you want to invest your money. The easiest way to start is by investing in your own mind. You start investing in your own education. I talked about the different types of books that you need to be reading. You got to read the top 4 books in personal finance. You got to read the top 4 books in stock market investing, top 4 books in real estate investing, the top 4 books for building a business, and the top 4 books for personal development. I don't care which 4 books you're reading, but you got to find at least 4 books in each one of these categories. Go out and read them, and now you have the tools. You're going to have this mindset necessary. You're going to have the brain power necessary to go out and actually do something. You want to invest in your physical health and your mental health and your spiritual health, but now it's actually investing your money, right? It's actually putting your money to work. Now you're going to know the different ways that you can invest. You're going to know different investing strategies, and now it's just a matter of putting your money to work. You have all the systems. Now it's just plug and play. You have the systems in place. You have the money coming in. Now you just got to put the money to work. That way you now can start getting the returns. And this is where having that good mindset of understanding real wealth that's built over the long term, not over the next 6 months. If you just stay consistent and keep putting your money to work, you will slowly start to see that wealth start to accumulate in your own accounts. But it requires the first step of taking action, constantly learning, and making the steps work for you. When we are in a slowing economy, a recession, they cut interest rates to stimulate spending, because our economy runs on spending. If I have $1,000 in my pocket and I go to Amazon and I spend this $1,000, well, Amazon has more money to hire more employees, invest in more infrastructure, do more things in the business. But if I keep that money in my pocket, they're not making as much money and they can't keep growing. So our economy runs on spending. And when you cut interest rates, spending goes up. When mortgage rates